Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm Sav.
And I'm Jess, and welcome to And a Diet Soda, episode 25, Mental Health and Creating Your Own Path.
Hey, welcome to your local fast food chain. Can I take your order?
Yeah, can I get a double cheeseburger, large fries, some tots, and I guess a diet soda?
Hi, it's Sav and Jess. Welcome to And a Diet Soda, an opportunity for people to celebrate their successes, share their failures, and hopefully give a little advice on all things relatable along the way.
This community is for appreciating the little things and fostering positive mindsets and intuitive thoughts by talking to people, because chances are they've been through it too. Today's theme is really all about change. We're always going through a constant change as humans. And so whether that's big changes, small changes, everything's in a constant flow. But I think something that we can all relate on is the excitement, the unease, and oftentimes the anxiety that comes along with that change. So today we're going to be talking a lot about that.
Yeah, so today our guest is Zachery Dereniowski, known on Instagram as MD Motivator. Zach is a content creator with a following of over 2.6 million people across all of his social networks. He's an avid volunteer in his community and dedicates his life and content to motivating people to strive to be the best versions of themselves. So thank you, Zach, for taking some time to be here. We're so excited to have you.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for this.
Awesome. So Zach, can you start out by just telling everybody a little bit about your social media account and your goals behind your content?
Yeah. So I guess first off, hi, my name is Zach. I've done a few podcasts, but I haven't done any since I moved back to Canada. Usually I say I'm not Australian. So I used to live in Sydney, Australia. So I guess a quick synopsis, if I give you like a 2-minute rundown of who I am, is probably the best way to do this. So Zach from Canada. When I was 18, I failed out of college. I had a 0.59 GPA. My parents said move out, and I was at an all-time low. I used, I guess, that like really, I guess, I had so much freedom, but no structure, and being 18 and not having good study habits and just falling all apart as like, I guess, the ultimate fuel to like over the next 6-7 years, do whatever I could academically to, I guess, prove my parents, prove the dean who says to be out of college and all these things wrong, which I don't think is the right approach to like motivation in terms of what should fuel you, but negativity or pain fuels you in ways obviously success can't. So over the next 6-7 years, I did that. And then it was about a year before starting medical school and I was applying when I sat down and I'm like, I kind of have a story here of being a college dropout. And now being a good medical school applicant with a good MCAT, et cetera. And I was working for exam crackers at the time. So I shared my story on Instagram, just randomly. I put out my freshman year transcripts and shared my story. And at that time, I was not a fan of social media at all. I just thought it was really fake and a lot of filtered photos and stories. And I shared my transcripts and it might have had like, I don't know, 5 likes, but there was this one kid from Wyoming who direct messaged me and just shared his full story of what he was going through and how nice it was to see someone else in a similar position. And I was just blown away that social media could be used for such good, such great like things. So over the next 3 months, every single night, I would host Instagram lives with medical students, residents, and doctors from across the world. And I learned that there was like this mentor mentee continuum of people wanting to exchange knowledge, and the farther down they were like ahead of me, I guess they were more willing to share that vulnerability. And through that, like I guess those 3 months, I came up with a formula which is called vulnerability equals relatability equals empowerment. So I've learned that our vulnerability is actually our superpower. So whether we're speaking it from an academic standpoint, whether it's you guys from like nutrition, like you just cheated a cheat meal all week, or if it's from a mental health standpoint, when you're actually just real, authentic, and like the true you'd be surprised at how much greatness or like how much you can help people by actually helping yourself by just being real. So in 2020 of January, I started medical school at the University of Sydney in Australia, and I had an ACL knee surgery, so I couldn't work out anymore. I couldn't like have my outlet. I went through a 6-year relationship breakup, which was like my identity and my source of happiness. Medical school was hard. COVID happened. I was trapped in Australia, and all these things kind of like came down on me. The same thing when I was like 18, but just like in a different way. And now I'm isolated on the other side of the world. And I just sat there and I was like, I I remember I was like going outside for like a run one day when my knee was starting to feel better. And I was just hysterically crying down this busy street and seeing like these busy men and busy women just like walking past me, their 9 to 5 busy life. No one noticed me. I just felt so alone. Like I'll never forget that afternoon. So I went, and as a medical student, you could see counseling services for free. And I did. And they said, one thing you should do is journal your thoughts. So I bought a journal, I started journaling my thoughts. And I was like, why am I doing this? I should kind of do something similar to what I do with the academics. But when it was mental health and feeling potentially like depressed and extremely anxious and all these things, the last thing I wanted to do was turn to Instagram, where I've developed or built this facade of started from the bottom, now we're here. So now I can't really talk about being like in like the trenches, I guess, in terms of my mentality or the people on there. So I went to TikTok because no one used TikTok. And one of my good friends, Jake Goodman, he suggested to check that app out and try it out. And one thing led to another. And then we formed the thing called the mental health movement. And I started doing mental health stuff. And now I do mental health and spreading kindness. I know that was like a really fast story of my last like decade, but I hope that.
No, that's fantastic. Sorry, I like have a bad habit of not being close to the mic when I talk. So that was a great synopsis of kind of what you do and how you got there. And we have tons more questions. I mean, I know Sav has like a lot to relate to you.
Yeah, I think we're the same person.
Yeah. Just like as you were speaking, and I'm really sorry that you went through so many changes at once. Like one change is hard, and everything that you went through all at once is like a really big feat that you should be really proud of yourself for making it through on the other side. So you mentioned you went to medical school in Australia. And so now we want to talk a little bit about that, because we want to talk about your transition and how you made those decisions from being in medical school. We just want you to kind of use this as an outlet, tell your story, because we think it's going to be so special. And I know that Sav is going to have quite a bit to say on it as well, because she recently went through some pretty big life decisions like that. So I just kind of wanted to introduce that as the next topic, if you're comfortable talking about it.
Yeah. Good question. All right. So like, this is recent. I don't know when this episode is going to go up, when people see it, but like this happened. Like I made like, I guess like the real decision, like maybe like the actual clicking the button 4 weeks ago. So this is like relatively recent. So when you ask me why, or I don't have like a synopsis, like I don't have like a perfect answer for you. The reason why, there's a lot of reasons. Obviously anyone that enters medicine, I know they enter medicine because they want to help people, right? Like it's so generic to say that. And being, I guess, separate from that at that time as like a COVID medical student, with Zoom and not being in the hospitals and not seeing the patients, I didn't get that experience. One, two, I wasn't happy on a day-to-day basis in terms of, I guess, what I was doing and where I was going with medicine. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want this episode to sound like bitter, like I'm negative about medical school at all, because I'm not. But there's always something next. When it comes to, I guess, maybe like grade school or high school or even college, you're studying for like these midterms or these exams, these finals. Once I get here, then I'll be happy kind of mindset. And when it comes to medicine, there's no such thing. There's always going to be a next exam or next board or next something, next paying off my hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, whatever it is. There's always going to be a next thing. And if you're in it thinking like eventually I'll be happy, then it's not the career for you. And I was saying this before when we chatted like on this intro call about the idea of the only people that should do medicine are people that can't see themselves doing anything else. And I went to medical school knowing I wanted to be a doctor, but not, I guess, being open enough to, I guess, trying other things as well. To get into medical school, you kind of have to have like plan A needs to be plan B in terms of like the product, because it's so competitive as it is. So you have to put these blinders on. And then once these blinders are on, they can't come off ever until you're like retired. If they come off and you recognize I'm not where I want to be, too bad. You're hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt you have decades of education in this direction, and this is where your life is going. So that's why I think a lot of medical students or residents or even attendings, first the suicide rates and then the burnouts, those are, and obviously the level of intensity that comes along with it. So those things are kind of like, I guess, recognizing medicine wasn't the end all be all for me. Maybe that's the best way of putting it. And the other thing is what I've been doing for the past year, recognizing my like real enjoyment is connecting with strangers and people and using communities to empower people that have dreams or have had setbacks, but have talents. And just, I want to live in this, I guess, almost uncertain world of not having this linear path anymore, of in a year's time, in 4 years time. It's scary because it's like, I've had these last 2 weeks in quarantine to like plan out, but like when I go and I do what I'm doing in the next couple months, anything could change at any point. It could go in any direction, and just being okay with not knowing, which is kind of uncomfortable, especially as a former medical student, because you always want to know or hope you can control.
You guys are all those type A people that need plans.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if I'm going, like, I'm just ranting at this point, but I hope that kind of like gives some like indication of why. And in terms of, do I have any regrets? Once I made a decision, I have never been as hopeful and like looking forward to the future than I have been in a long time, since probably before I was studying for the MCAT. So I'm in a really good headspace for the first time in a long time, which is amazing. And it helps me obviously like finally listening, I guess, to my intuition, becoming more self-aware. How do I become more self-aware? That kind of goes into like the meditation thing we'll talk about later. But like, yeah, there's a lot of things we could dive into, but like finding who I am and being okay with knowing that changes with time and experience.
Yes, for sure. I loved that whole like synopsis that you gave us. That was fantastic. I'm sorry for not giving you more direction with that question, because I'm sure being only a month out, it's like really hard to communicate all of the things that went into this decision and your life over the last 18 months and where you are now. So I just kind of wanted to ask a more specific question. And I guess we'll just kind of go there from there now that we have like your overall what happened. So I want to start by asking about your move to Australia, because this, like, when you're looking back on it now, you're like, it wasn't for me. There was a lot that I wasn't expecting, but that move must have been exciting, right? Like, how was it moving to another country halfway across the world and starting this new journey? Like, how did you decide to do that? And what was that like?
Yeah, Australia is definitely for me. Don't get it wrong. Like, I love Sydney's beautiful. So when I was in my undergrad, I did an exchange in Melbourne for 4.5 months at a school called Deakin University. So when I went there essentially to travel and like obviously do international exchange, but I truly fell in love with the country. So I told myself, when I'm going to enter medical school, I'm going to go and I'm going to apply to Australia, because I don't see myself going there as like an international medical graduate and then come back to North America. I saw myself as going there for medical school and then creating a life out there. So I went there with a lot of excitement, one from like my previous experience, almost nostalgic at that point, and also like Sydney University's a top ranked world medical school, and a lot of clinical experience, clinical immersion from day one. This is all ironic now because I was stuck in a country halfway across the world and there was no clinical immersion from day one. But those were like the mindset going in, complete excitement, and really honestly, for the first time and probably ever, excited to learn, not like do well to do good on a test. I just wanted to take everything in because that was going to like be the rest of my life, right? It wasn't to do good on a test. In med school, at least a lot of medical schools, the first 2 years, they're pass fail because they want you to learn the content and not get caught up in that type A personality that you referenced earlier. So yeah, I guess excitement.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you for sharing everything about your story. I think this is your episode, but I want to share a little bit about my story as well, because we have so many people who are in medical school or who are questioning it. We've talked to people who have also changed their paths a little bit. So I think it's really important for people to know. But for me, it's so crazy when you speak, because it's like listening to myself a little bit. And so it's really, just resonates a lot. And I know that it will with other people. So I actually did internships in Southern California while I was still in college. And it was the same for me, where I was like, I just kind of want to go back there. It was so nostalgic. It was such a great experience. I loved it. And so after I did my undergrad, I decided to do my master's and just work in clinical trials. So I went out there, and California is for me as well. So don't get it wrong either. But at the time, COVID just ruined kind of everything for us. I mean, it was so closed down. And throughout this entire time, I mean, if it wasn't for COVID, I don't know if I would have honestly recognized that I didn't want to do this path. And I think it was because, like you were talking about, those blinders, like they just came off for me. Like when I was forced, I've always struggled with anxiety. I've had anxiety my entire life, and I was diagnosed at 18, but I've never felt depression like I did during COVID. Like a lot of our patients died that we worked with. I worked in oncology with leukemia and lymphoma. And so we've seen so many patients die directly from COVID. And then we had to go and work remote. And I was kind of just sitting in the same room every single day for a year and a half, studying for the MCAT, doing classes. And I was just like, I'm not living, and I'm not going to just start living when I go to medical school. And so for me personally, I talked to so many of my mentors, of the doctors that I've worked with, and my friends who are in medical school. And I remember, shout out to you, Bailey. I know you're going to hear this. You helped me so much, but she literally was like, Savannah, if what you want to do with nutrition as a doctor is not significantly different than what you could do right now, I highly recommend you don't do it. And it's like you said, I mean, I didn't even question going into being a doctor because I thought that was my only way. And so I also went through very recently a 4-year breakup and moved home, and all of these changes are just unraveling. So it's been
You are similar to me.
Yeah. You said about your 6-year breakup, and I gave Sav a look like, okay, let's get into this.
Yeah. I mean, and there's something to be said for all relationships in general, but I mean, when you lose like a person that's that close to you, I mean, it's just crazy. So I love talking to you because I know you're not alone, and you always spread that with everything that you talk about, and knowing that you matter most. So it's just really good to hear your story, and we're thankful to hear it and that you're sharing it with us. And thanks for letting me share mine as well. It's the first time I've talked about it too.
No, thank you for sharing it. I guess my question to you is, was Bailey your epiphany? We said this before, like the final straw, or like your epiphany? Was she holy smokes, maybe this isn't for me? Or what was it for you?
To be honest, when we talked about this on the intro call, I kind of thought about it after too. And I was like, there wasn't really a moment, but talking to her, we've been friends since undergrad, and she's so brilliant. And she helped me gain confidence to be a doctor in the first place. Like in undergrad, I was never somebody who thought I wanted to be a doctor. Like growing up, I had no idea. And then I went to school and I got my degree in neuroscience, and I was like, I loved it. I was good at it, but I never had a thought of like, okay, what's next? Like, will I be a doctor? And everyone around me was going to be. But when I met her, she was like, Sav, you can do this. Like, you can 100% do this. And for anyone listening, being capable of doing a crazy hard path is completely separate than choosing to not do it. Like, you are 100% capable of doing anything that you want, but it's also okay to choose not to do that, because I was capable of doing it and I did everything I needed to do to get to medical school. But yes, when I talked to her, I was like, if she wouldn't have told me word for word, like, if what you want to do with nutrition as a doctor, if it doesn't look like completely different, you need to not even do this. Because she actually, and I love that you posted about the suicide rates with physicians, because she said to me, she was like, I'm not me. I'm not working out. I can't even have a functioning thought outside of it. So yes, it was an epiphany moment. And at some point in this conversation, I'd also like to talk to the good points of the medical school, because I don't want anyone listening to be deterred. This is really just a conversation of our specific lives and our changes as well.
Well, to that point though, like, I think that could be anything with any sort of career. Like if you're someone on Wall Street or someone who works in finance or someone like anything, and you feel that monotony and that like, I'm not me when I'm not focused on this job that I feel trapped in, like that thought can be translated to anything. It's not just medical school, just because we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
What was that moment?
Point too that Sav made about being capable. That's a huge thing. So if you're listening, like the biggest issue, I guess, for students transferring from high school to college or even in high school is like, am I capable? Like you said it yourself, and you believe it too. Everyone's capable of going to medical school. Any single person can do well on a test, a standardized test. Everyone's capable. But the issue I find is that the moment you recognize you're capable is almost too late in terms of like your direction of where you're going, because when you're questioning your capability, your ego is actually driving you into depression because you're trying to like prove people wrong in a direction that maybe you shouldn't be going because those blinders are still on. Because once you recognize you can do anything, you stop doing everything. And that was like the epiphany for me. I don't know if that makes sense what I just said, but like
can you say it again slower?
Sure. Sorry.
Like, okay, so because I know that you get it, Sav, because you felt it, but like that, can you just say it maybe in a different way?
Yeah. So I said, once you realize you can do everything, once you realize you can do anything, you stop doing everything. And that goes back to what Sav was saying, because when she said everyone's capable, like you could feel she was saying that from her chest, like she believes it. But a lot of people who are listening right now question, can I get to med school? Can I become a lawyer? Can I even go to Wall Street? Whatever the direction is you want to go, I challenge you to like surround yourself with people who love you and support you, to let you get to that point of recognizing your worth and then you're capable of anything as early in your life as possible. So then you're more focused on, oh, I have 100 different directions I could go. Let me try some out, versus I'm going to get this one flex on the world kind of vibe, which I don't think it may work. And you may get the dream job or the dream house or the salary or even happiness, who knows, but you're kind of playing roulette with your life.
No, I felt that so much when you said that, because I also feel like my age has a little bit to do with it, and it's never too late to go to medical school or do anything.
I'm older than you.
Yeah, correct. But for me, like if I had maybe started thinking about it, or if I had somebody in my life telling me like I could do it, like I was the first person in my family to even go to college, and my family supported me, but like that's just not something that was normal for us. And so if I had somebody in my life who was like, you should start thinking about this, or you can do this, and I had that confidence from day one, maybe I would have gone straight out of undergrad, who knows. But for my specific path, like, yeah, I 100% just kind of, once I realized like, I don't have to prove myself. For me, it kind of got to a point where it was like, why am I doing this? I don't actually want to do this. Who am I trying to prove it to? Like, you know, you can do it. So it's just time to like move on with my life a little bit.
No, totally. I feel like it's that whole like identity crisis thing, because once you are on that path for so long, then it's like, it's your family, it's your friends, and all they're trying to do is be supportive, but you almost feel afraid to be like, I'm going another direction, because all of a sudden you have to explain a completely different side of yourself. And they're like, and people start asking questions, and it's scary.
Yeah. What was that like for you? What was the feedback like from your friends and your family?
Once I made the decision of doing it, overwhelming support and love and like kindness and like not questioning it, just like there for me. So I was obviously scared to like admit it. It was like going on a ski lift, and like eventually, Zach, you have to jump off the ski lift. You can't get off. So it's like I had to just jump, right? But I jumped into like a pillow. So like everything was okay. So I guess that was kind of like yeah, it was nice to see. And a few people I haven't spoken to, I guess, but they were acquaintances anyways. So at the end of the day, you gotta follow your own truth and do what's best for you. How about you, Sav? How was it like when you said it to people in your life?
Yeah, so I have a significantly smaller following than you do, but I told everyone close to me first, and everyone is always, the people that I'm close to are so supportive of anything I want to do. And I'm very happy with the people that are in my life because of that. And I'm grateful for them. And then I put it on social media and made it clear, first of all, I support every single one of my friends in medical school who are going to be great doctors. But for me, that's not it. And there was that overwhelming support as well. I mean, and I love that we're having this conversation, and I love that you're taking that leap as well, because there just needs to be more of that conversation. Like, it's so okay. It shouldn't feel, both of us felt that feeling of like, is this right? Am I doing the right thing? And it just shouldn't feel that way. You should always be able to know that like, whatever you're doing, whatever you're changing your mind about, it's okay. Like we need to normalize that a little bit more as well. So as far though, I was actually wondering, this is kind of a selfish question, as far as like relationships and coming out of something like that, and working out is like my life too. Have you found, another like workout routine? Are you getting back into these things that you love?
I guess I found another partner.
No.
She's all, are you single?
No, are you able to like start doing the things that you love and enjoy again now that you've made this decision? And then as far as the relationship thing, like just, I don't know where on your path that was, but how were you able to get past that? Because these are crazy long relationships that like, how do you even start?
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking that because I'm also curious.
Yeah, I guess like those two questions there. The first one is, can I like work out and like be me again? Yes. Yeah, everything's good in terms of that stuff. How did I go through a 6-year breakup during medical school and still like float?
Yeah.
So when I was 24, I had a life-threatening DVT, so blood clot, all the way up to my neck. And I was studying for the MCAT at that time, and I had the blood clot, and then I was dismissed. I was like let out, and like I had to take blood thinners, and like I was studying for the MCAT. I was like 2 weeks out, and I just pushed through. In terms of, I guess, it wasn't gonna get worse, but like you just went through like a pretty traumatic thing, push your MCAT, and I just like pushed through, and I did well in the MCAT. So essentially, that experience, although it's traumatic, allowed me to like numb like my life and just monotony move on. So that's what I did when I went through the breakup. I numbed my life and I performed the same as I did academically and the same as I did. Jess is laughing. Is there something similar?
No, I'm just laughing because what I'm hearing is, all right, folks, breakups are a lot like blood clots.
Yeah.
It's something like, you gotta push through.
No. I was trying to like give you an example of how I was able to. So like that was what I thought it was like. That was worse than this. So you can just push through, and like you get a break in a few weeks or in a few months, you'll be able to go home. Because at that time we were promised that we could go home to Canada, and it wasn't that we could go home. It was the idea of like knowing you can go home. When I know I can't go home for 2 years, that's the feeling trapped there was the hard part. So yeah, it wasn't until probably like 4 or 5 months after that I really like unraveled those thoughts and let those emotions out. And that was when it like, I guess, shit hit the fan. And like, I just like expressed it, and like, it was okay to like talk about it to people and my friends because they go through stuff too. They've been through breakups, so they're going through tough times, and like me sharing that gave them a gateway to do the same. And I was surprised. Releasing that onto, I guess, not someone else, but like dispersing it really helped me because I was internalizing it for too long, which obviously is not good for no one. So yeah.
No, I love social media. I'm so happy that I know you because everything you say, I'm just like, oh, I'm looking in a mirror. It's okay. We're the same.
Yeah, it's really strong what you went through. And you were so strong through that whole process. And like you were saying, as funny as it was relating a breakup to a blood clot, it's so true. I mean, it's like you have made it through. I mean,
no, I love it.
It's so cliche, but I love that saying. That's like, you have made it through 100% of your bad days. So what is stopping you from pushing through and making it through these next ones? I mean, so I just love that. I think it's great. Yeah.
So, okay. We know everything. We know the stories now. We want to know, what is your brand going to look like from here? I mean, and as far as like you matter most and everything, is that really like your passion and where you're headed now?
Yeah. So like You Matter Most was a stem from mental health movement. I don't know if you saw, but as of yesterday, Jake and I officially like closed shop for now in mental health movement. Just because he's busy with it's crazy busy with residency, and what I want to do is I kind of want to like, I guess, not get away from, it's going to still associate with mental health, but from, like I said, what my envision is traveling North America and making dreams and come true and changing lives. So I get out of here in 3 days, and I already have like, I guess, like the first 3 weeks planned of what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, and hopefully run into people. And it's not like set up, like it's kind of like we were saying before, this path is not linear. I could meet a guy at a gas station, a girl at a coffee shop. It could be anywhere, anytime, and just like hearing their story. And like you said before, like the power of social media. So I hired a videographer full time, and I'm going to take this. I've to put it in perspective, I'll hire a videographer for like 4 hours for a month. And now I have like 30 hours a week. So like, I'm just going to be like soaking it up and hopefully be able to make a career out of helping others. I don't know.
Oh my gosh,
I'm so
fantastic. That's
Yeah.
so cool. You're like your own little reality TV show. What are you calling it?
YMM, like there's not even a name for it. It's just like whoever you matter most, like it prioritizes whoever that person is. I just want to use their story. So like, I kind of wanted to like, I felt like when I was sharing my story on Instagram about being a college dropout, I related to the student who was struggling. I'll never be able to relate to the homeless 19-year-old girl or the 65-year-old, whatever it is, like the certain like people, having anecdotes and being able to show people hope from all perspectives. Obviously I'll impact that one person's life, but hopefully it connects with a lot larger audience in terms of internalizing it for their own, or other people to do the same. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, I love that, and I'm jealous. If you
Yeah.
ever are in the area, let us know.
I will be.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Maybe in
100%.
Colorado?
Yeah, we'll definitely have to meet up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so cool. That's like what we try to convey here too, is that we, of course, like as human beings, you all have your own very unique and very individual experiences, but the underlying values and lessons learned and strength that comes from just living life is what's constant throughout everybody. And no matter what that emulates in your life, it's all the same underlying theme.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Going off that, I have a question then. So, like you said, medical school was like, you have your eye on the prize, and you don't get to take those glasses off, and you don't get to just consider like wherever life is going to take you. That's anxiety inducing for me still right now, because I'm like, okay, it's okay. Like to me, I was like, I wasn't going to have my life start for the next 10 years because I was going to be in medical school and residency and all of these things. And so when I decided not to do it, I was like, wow, like I have my life back. Like I have my life. And then I was like, wow, like what am I going to do now? And so it's like it's like a bittersweet feeling. So what is your advice for somebody going through something like that? Like, how do you just like hop on the roller coaster and embrace all that it is coming at you?
I would love to have someone give me that advice. I don't know the answer. When I made the decision, it felt like right when I hit it, it was like Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I'm like, holy smokes, I don't have to study again. It was obviously like an excitement of that, but like, I was like, wow, I spent so many years like going in this direction. Now I've just been like rediscovering who I am and what makes me happy or what are my passions. So like, waking up every morning, I guess when I start going to get out of this quarantine, because right now I do know, not knowing where the future is going to go, because it became so monotonous every day for me that it was depressing to get out of bed because I already knew what to expect that day or what the highs or the lows were going to be. So excitement for the future and grateful for the decision, and not a regret for doing it earlier, because I think everything in life happens for a reason and it happens at the right time. So I think, Saf, same for you too. To be able to get to that point in your education of having like your master's and being in just the lessons that you've learned, I guarantee you will be priceless for whatever direction you end up going with future decisions you make. So no regrets from my end, and I hope there's none from yours. I don't know the answer to your question though, clearly. I'm in the same boat.
That was a great answer. No, and thank you. Yeah, no regrets at all. No, like none.
Yeah.
None at all.
Good. Yeah. That's fantastic.
And if you want to go to medical school, go to medical school, because I feel like I've really been like this way the whole conversation.
Well, yeah. Well, I was going to say that like, I definitely feel like I don't know if FOMO is the right word, or just like watching your friends. So I'm 25 and the majority of my friends have either started a career and are like well into that, or are finishing up their professional school. Like one of my best friends, both of my roommates are in vet school and they're going to finish up vet school and be doctors long before I even like think about that. And
she's in grad school.
I'm in grad school. Yeah. So I'm in grad school. So I definitely understand like the feeling of being in the lab for 18 hours a day and like seeing everyone else advance further than you and feeling like you're going not very fast. But I want to talk about how you guys kept saying that you felt like life was passing you by, and I completely understand that that statement, but I also want to speak to the importance of like prioritizing whatever that life means to you, even no matter what situation you're in right now. So even if you're thinking about not pursuing the same path that you're on right now, or if you're working towards whatever you're going towards, like I'm in grad school, I'm in the lab all the time. Or if I'm not in the lab, I'm reading articles, I'm writing my thesis. And I feel like I really dedicate like 85% of my life to school right now. And I love it. And it's my passion, but I also make sure that I don't let life pass me by. So if it's going to be taking a nap or going out with friends, I'm going to go out with friends, because I feel like those moments are so important. And you may be exhausted, but however that mental health shows up for you, like I'm an extrovert. If I'm going to recharge, I have to go out with my friends. And if you're an introvert and you want to go to this new cool spot, like up this hike or whatever, take yourself out on a date, like bring some lunch up there, like just don't let life pass you by, even though you feel like you're the busiest person in the world. I think that's really important, making time for yourself.
When you plan your schedule, the first thing you should plan in is those times for yourself, because the work week won't go the way you want it to go, or everything else will fall apart, or the little things will become big things because you haven't taken care of you. And that goes whole back to like the YMM, that you matter most, prioritizing you. Like in medical school, every single day I would do some form of exercise. If I had to get up at 4:30, I got up at 4:30. If I stayed up late, I stayed up late. But I was always blocking in some time in my day for me, because I knew how important that was. So with whatever schedule you have, whether you're a mom of 3, you're a student, whatever it is your situation, find a schedule that works for you and keep yourself organized and making sure you still put the time in for you, because that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
Yeah. So can we talk a little bit about your friends who have had a good experience with medical school? Just,
None.
Just to round out the edges a little bit.
Yeah, like I was saying, I guess, like, can I go into like, I'll just like,
I'll
go into it.
I don't care. I'm not even a medical student anymore. I don't care. I can say what I want. I can say what I want. I have no fear. A lot of medical students shouldn't be medical students. And whether that's from an egotistical, whether that's from that's not their like ultimate calling, or just knowing them as people, like medicine is like any other career. There is a range of, I guess, like I don't know what's the word you would use, like of like low to high, the quality of doctors, right?
There are peaks and troughs.
Troughs, thank you.
Yeah.
And although medicine's the cream of the crop, the peaks and troughs really like spread out much farther, because there's so much demand for what they're doing. You're saving someone's life, your lives in their hands. So one, recognizing there's a portion that shouldn't be there, and 2, recognizing how amazing some of these people in your cohort are, whether they're brilliant, whether they're passionate, whether they're both, just in awe. I've never been surrounded by so many wonderful and beautiful people for 32 days before we went into COVID, like Zoom learning. But like that, I mean, like I still connected with them, but I mean, like, I remember that specifically. I was just like, these people are brilliant and just so passionate, and just like, if medicine is what you think you should do based off your experience, whether it's through scribing or working in the ER, from loving science, etc., you will not be disappointed when you're in medical school. When you're in medical school, there is no way you will fail out. You have too much of a support system around you. You have a lifestyle that's like indicative of being a successful student. Everyone that you know is studying 12, 14 hours, but you make it a life, and it's fine. It's not like this struggle grind, because when you're a pre-med or you're in these gap years, it's like you're scraping up these walls. But once you're in medical school, they're like, cool, you're here. Like when I quit, my dean of my program, who I was friends with because she tore her ACL the previous year as well, she didn't want me to quit. She wanted me to defer. She wanted to help me with the exams. She wanted to do it, like literally took care of me like a grade school secretary when you're faking sick and you need to call your mom, like motherly figure of a dean of a medical school program. Like, they care about you. So I think if you're worried about will you survive when you're medical school, I can promise you, every single person here, you won't just survive, you will be hopefully surrounded by a good cohort, if you're at the right school. And I guess you're somewhat put yourself out there with like communicating and being somewhat extroverted when you need to be. So don't even know if that answers your question, but that was some of my experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It's like, I feel like it's like with everything, the further you get along in your career, the more you realize how many options there truly are. Like, speaking from the veterinary school side of it, in undergrad, I was pre-vet for a year, took my first chem class, dropped pre-vet, and then it was like, this is terrible. I want no part of this. And then 6 years down the road, found my love for reproductive physiology. And now I'm like, now I kind of want to be a vet. So you just like, I think that if you're younger or just starting to think about medical school and all you have in your brain is like family medicine and like general doctor or ambulatory if you're in vet med, then there's so much more to it. There, you no matter what your career is, medical, anything other than that, you can just make it what you want it to be, which is really fantastic. So yeah.
Jess, how'd you fall in love with reproductive phys?
I just took a class. It was a mandatory class in undergrad, and it was repro phys, and I was like, "This is awesome. We know nothing," and I thought the research was really cool, and so yeah. And then I finished my undergrad, and I did an internship in Louisiana, and fell in love with it even more, and then started grad school. So yeah,
her passion. That's a thing. Like you said, if you like can't think of anything else that you could do. I
can't think of anything else. Like, I feel so weird. I like reference it out when we're like getting drinks somewhere. I'm like, yeah, like I had these ovaries come in or something like that. And people are like, no.
That's the thing, is like when you have that passion for something, and it's cool because you found your passion, I found my passion, and she has her passion. It's not about whether med school or vet school is good or bad. It's about what's good for you.
Yeah.
So,
and how that passion translates can be totally different too. Like your passion, like you, Zach, your passion is helping people, and you thought that was medical school, but you can help so many people in so many ways, like you're about to do. Yeah. And you have, and going out on this adventure. So just because your passion is one thing and you're thinking that it's one path, it could be so many different things. Yeah.
Yeah. I can already tell you live and breathe it, Jess, the way you talk about it.
He took me to see a horse.
I did.
I was like, wow.
I took her to see a horse when I was doing one of my like later night treatments, and I like put a speculum into the mare, and I like shine the little flashlight, and I was like, there's the cervix, and then it queefed on her.
I was like, oh, not for me.
It was the best though.
What were you gonna say?
I forget, honestly.
You're like that story was hard to hear now. Yeah. Well, can I ask you about like your mental health through all of this and how that changed for you? Like kind of what that did you experience? Or I guess here's a better way to ask it. Did you know what mental health and what your good mental health was before you had bad mental health? Like, were you aware of that before it all came crashing down?
No, I've always like believed mental health is real, but I never thought it would impact me. That was my mindset going in. And it wasn't until that day, like I said before, when I was on the run in the street, when I was like hysterically crying and just watching people pass me by, that I'm like, I'm digging myself into a hole, but I've never gone down a hole before. So I didn't know how far I was going to go down, if that makes sense. And I didn't know how far I could go down where I'd be able to get out. So I was fortunate that I got to a point where I cried in the street. I'm like, this isn't right. Like, this is not me, that I sought support. But a lot of people, especially during COVID, never really experienced mental health to this degree. So they were digging themselves in these holes and maybe not having those epiphanies. So it got to a point where it got much worse than it did for me. I didn't mean to laugh. I don't know why I laughed. That was not right. And there's other people that have dug themselves in holes and have asked for help to get out, and people have laughed at them or told them they brushed them off or just said, be positive. And then they don't ask for help and they just stay in the hole. So these analogies with blood clots and digging holes are terrible, but I hope my message gets across in terms of like, I was fortunate that I was not too far down. to seek support. And once I did, things didn't get better right away, but I recognized when I wasn't alone and there was a way out. And then I slowly got myself out.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. So for me, when I first started to think about like that this path wasn't for me, was because like I have always, like, I love yoga. I teach yoga. I've worked out. I love, like, for me that, and in nutrition, like for me, that's my life and that's my passion. And I stopped doing everything I cared about. And so I was like, how can I help people if I can't help myself? And that was the first thing that I thought to myself when things really started to go crazy. And when I started digging myself into this like bottomless hole that I'm still kind of picking myself out of, to be honest. But what have you done, or what can you recommend for people to really take care of themselves? I mean, I know you've touched on meditation a little bit. I don't know what that looks like in your life. But what can you do when you are feeling the worst you've ever felt in your life?
Yeah. Sorry, piggybacking off of that, because it's kind of like the same question. But I wonder like how much of you digging yourself out of that hole was you, and how much had to come from like within versus external, from family, from friends, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't know the percentage, but it's both, and time too, right? Because you're seeing it from, I guess, the outside looking in, so you're seeing it as like a learning lesson or experience. So you're like, oh, okay, this is when I went through this because of this. In terms of what do I do when I feel like that, I'll tell you right now. So I've been quarantined for 10 or 11 days. Even before, when I was at home, I said I had no regrets, but I still have highs and lows. I still like wonder, like, I don't know if I can swear on this, but what am I going to do? What the fuck am I going to do with my life? Right? Like, what, honestly, like, I'm going to help people. Where am I going to go? How am I going to make this like financially feasible? Like, I question myself daily, which I think is healthy. But I'll get to these low, I'll just like pitter patter into like this low. And what I've learned to do is do these things. I set micro goals. So I don't know if you've heard of them before. So it's 7:52 p.m. right now. So if I started crying or feeling really bad and got to a low, I would set an alarm on my phone until 8:22. So for the next 30 minutes, I'll allow myself to cry, listen to music, pitter patter those questions, and really be, I guess, in a toxic environment. When that 8:22 goes off, I will make something to eat. I'll text my mom. I'll go for a walk down the street. I'll go to the gym. I'll cook something. I'll do laundry. I'll do one thing that forces me out of that. So one, I've allowed myself not to suppress it. I felt it. And two, I didn't let it take over my day, my week, or my month, which when you allow yourself to feel those negative things, it's very easy to let it consume you. So that was something that's helped me, is micro goals for 30 minutes. Allow yourself.
I love that.
Yeah, that's
I'm
awesome.
gonna try.
Did it take practice? Like, were you right away just like snap out of it? Like, what, or did it take practice to be
no. Well, when I did it the first time, I knew what I always set the 30-minute alarm with knowing what I'm going to do. Like, okay, the 30 minutes, I'm going to make a PB&J sandwich, or I'm going to go to the gym. Like, I already like knew what I was going to do. So I think if you know what you're going to do at the 30 minutes and the alarm goes off, it worked for me the first time. Like, if it didn't work for me the first time, I probably wouldn't have stuck with it. That's the other thing. I was just like desperate. I was trying everything. And that was one thing that really helped me. So if it works for you or the people listening, why not?
Awesome.
Yeah, cool. Sometimes you just like to dance it out too. Like sometimes you have those feelings, and like Sav and I were saying the other day, it just kind of feels good to cry. Like it's exhausting, which sucks. And so I definitely have to plan it if I'm having an emotion. I suppress. Well, some people say suppress the jest, but really, I mean, I'm like the queen of suppressing my emotions. Like if something comes up in an inconvenient time, I'm like, no, not going to feel that right now. And because it's just exhausting to feel those emotions. Like you get done with processing whatever that is, and you got to go take a nap. Like it's a lot.
She's been there every step of the way through everything I've gone through. And I've learned that I'm like extremely emotional, like to a level that's way more, and care about things way more than most people do. Because like, I think this exercise is going to be great for me, because I sometimes like can go all day and it's super unhealthy. I can even be doing things like, I love yoga and I haven't been doing it recently because it's supposed to be zen and helpful, and I spend the entire hour thinking about something that I shouldn't. And so I'm trying other things. Like I hate running and I'm dying and I can't really think about anything else when I'm running right now. So I'm going to try that. But you learn a lot about yourself in the lowest low of your life, that's for sure. But it's good. It's leading me to another high.
Yeah.
So it's good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I have just kind of one more question and topic that I want to ask you. So when we first talked, we asked what you were most passionate about and the thing that you wanted to share with your audience the most. And you said that you wanted to make emotions cool. And we just want to hear a little bit about how emotions can be cool. And again, it might be selfish because I'm emotional and I want to know if I'm cool. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. You are cool, Sav. You're cool. And yes,
Oh
Jess,
my God. I know for a fact that I'm not cool. So
we're cool.
do not suppress the Jess. Don't
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I want to make emotions and feelings cool. So like first and foremost, guys don't speak about emotions or feelings as often. It's more common now because of COVID, people speaking of mental health. So speaking up from a male perspective, but like honestly, what I'm trying to do, I don't know if you've noticed, but like 2015 YouTube social experiments, I'm trying to do like social experiments that are like those things, but now make them about mental health, whether it's wearing a Spider-Man costume, whether it's Omegle, whether it's, what else have I done? Or like, I don't know if you know who Harry Mack is. He's like a famous rapper. What happened?
you brought me back to like middle school with the word Omegle. Like I remember.
Sorry, I'm just like Omegle, Omegle, yeah.
Omegle,
Scary sight.
no, it's so funny. Remember, didn't we all used to like get on there with like our friends and like meet random people when we were in middle school? Like if my mom knew that I was doing that in 8th grade, she'd be like, "Oh hell no! Like computer is taken away."
Yeah, don't do it. But the idea is what I'm saying. Like I try to use all, I guess, avenues of showing not like Omegle or Spider-Man, but just to show people, people being people and people, whatever it is in any situation, who they really are. And you'd be surprised at if you're vulnerable or if you're kind at how the average stranger or person in your life will actually take it in and respond. It'd be very beautiful. So I guess we had this thing of like, what was I going to tell you guys? I was going to say meditate for 5 minutes, but the honest truth is I don't even meditate. I should meditate. So I can't tell you advice that I wouldn't do, but I would like you to do this. For the next 3 days, do one random act of kindness.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. For 3 days, one thing, whatever it comes to your mind that you think you should do or you can do it. And yes, you're going to make someone happy and they're going to be happy for 3 days, but you'd be surprised at how much that means to your own happiness more than anything for yourself can.
I still remember people doing things like randomly. Like I remember those
like the
people.
pay it forward.
Yeah. Like I remember.
Pay it forward.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Beautiful.
I love that. That was so genuine. If everyone listening, that was like completely unscripted. We were gonna do the meditate one, but I loved that honesty just then. That was great.
Yes.
I remember I think it was like a quote from Friends or something where they were like, "There's no such thing as a completely selfless act of kindness," and like, I don't know, it was like Phoebe or something. She was getting pissed. She was like, "No, that's not true. I'm going to find one." But the truth is, whenever you're kind to someone, it makes you feel good. So there's a little aspect of selfishness in there. If you want to feel good, just be kind to one another.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The golden rule. Everything they taught us in the beginning is everything we've all forgotten and just need to bring back in our lives.
True.
So.
Yeah.
All those Disney movies that have such wise quotes, and you're like, that's what that meant now.
Oh, right. Oh, tell me about it. No, literally, I think about Frozen, like Frozen 2. I don't know if you guys have seen Frozen 2, but there's no, you haven't, Zach.
Continue though. I'm here for it.
Okay. So, well, I'll send you the clip, but there's this one scene in Princess Anna is singing a song, and I don't even know what the title of the song is, but she's like, "All I can do is do the next right thing." And I'm like, damn, Disney with the knowledge.
Disney,
I was like, that's so true.
Disney movies are made for adults. I'm convinced.
100%.
Like they're really made for us. When I go back and I watch them, I'm like, wow, like that was meant for adults to hear. So Zach, thank you so much for dedicating an hour of your life to be here with us. I really feel like things happen for a reason. Again, might be me being selfish, but talking to you has helped me tremendously. So I really do appreciate it. And I know, and I hope you know that you help so many people every single day through what you're doing. So thank you for sharing your story and for sharing your complete vulnerability with us. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, we are going to wrap things up. I just wanted to know if there's anything else that you wanted to convey to anyone out there who's struggling or anything. I know this is kind of like one of the first times you're sharing the complete story, and we hope that we did it justice for you. Do you have any closing remarks?
I guess the only thing I have to tell people is, one, whatever you're going through, I can promise you you're not alone, as cliche as that sounds. Two, be kind, random acts of kindness. And three, in terms of career, because we seem to talk a lot about career, was try as many things as you can in your life as early as you can. And there was this analogy, last cliche analogy, they're using it like ice cream samples. So like try as many ice cream samples as you can so you can find your favorite ice cream sample, because you're always going to like ice cream, but find the right sample for you.
We love cliches here.
Yeah.
And ice cream.
Yeah, we're built on cliches for sure.
Yeah, so that's it.
Awesome. I love it. No, that's pretty good for being put on the spot. You all can find Zach on Instagram and TikTok at MD Motivator. We will link everything in the show notes and tag Zach and everything throughout the week. So to become a part of our family and community, join us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all the things at And a Diet Soda. And thanks again, Zach. And we'll see all the rest of you next week.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening. We hope you were able to give yourself a little love today. You deserve it.
Be sure to subscribe to this podcast and check us out on social media for weekly conversations and attainable challenges for your health.